Hello everyone, Daniel here with the Pedal Peasants YouTube channel. Thank you all for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Within this video, I'm going to share with you all how I go about assembling my new 8,000 watt Stealth Bomber e-bike that I picked up from Alibaba. Should you have any questions at any point throughout this video, I'm going to highly encourage you to drop a comment down below. I will do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. With that being said, let's dive straight on into this. I did purchase this e-bike through Alibaba, so it did come partially assembled. So for this video, I'm going to show you what I need to do to get this bike assembled. The first thing that I did was unbox everything, in which I made a full video on for you all. And then I set up the bike on this stand, as you can see right here. I've also unboxed that stand, so you can check that out as well. I'll leave the videos floating up here for you all. Here is the internal housing. This is what the inside of the body looks like upon opening it for the first time. Rest assured, I'm going to show you how to plug in the controller and the battery. I'm going to show you how to plug in the light as well, so that way we plug all the wires in correctly. Again, I'm going to reiterate, should you have any questions, please drop them down below. I will do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. Right here, we also have a set of keys that come with my e-bike. At least I'm not sure if every single e-bike in this model comes with an ignition start. I've seen some with it, some without, so that's something you may want to ask before purchasing. Mine came with the keys. Now, moving on to the actual assembly aspect of this video here. Now, this is the KKE front fork. So where I am personally going to begin is by assembling the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the front wheel onto the front fork. I'm going to show you here a little time lapse how I go about doing that. It's actually pretty straightforward. As you see, that's what I am doing right here. Took one person to get this done, and this is where we're going to begin, or at least for me. My method is I'll simply hold the wheel up with my knees, and I'll use my hands to adjust the fork and axle until I find the right placement, until I could slip that axle through to go ahead and screw it in. That's simply how I approached it. Don't forget to install your wheel correctly, so that way when it rotates in the correct direction. From here, what we're going to want to do is we're going to attach the front fork and wheel to the body of the bike. As you can see, I'm lifting it up while my lady is putting the fork into the frame there. This part's very straightforward, so you're just going to want to line the front wheel and the fork up to the body and install it like so. It does require a little bit of patience, and I would highly recommend to have another person help you along the way on this part. So once the front fork and wheel are installed, it should look something like this when it is attached to the body. Allow me to show you the placement of the rings and spacers here. I'm going to start by placing this silver O-ring down first. You're going to want to make sure that this silver O-ring is sitting flushly in the bars there. As you can see from this angle, the O-ring is sitting nice and flush within there. That's exactly where you want it before you start placing everything else in there. The next part, I'm going to place down this little rubber piece that goes to this next component that I'm sliding down right here. I'm not sure the terminology, but this is the next piece that's going to go on. I would recommend to take your time with this aspect and just make sure that everything is sitting flush before locking everything in. I'm just going to press down as best as I can to lock it all in place before we continue. Silver O-ring, and then we have this outer O-ring pressing that one down, and this is going to be the third part right here. As you can see, I'm going to be using this part, and I'm just going to place it down like so and kind of just manually wiggle it into place until I get it going down there. I'm not sure exactly what this is called. For that, I apologize. But this is the next part that's going to go on, and I'm going to kind of just fasten it a little bit. I don't do any full extensive tightening right now. I'm kind of just assembling, and then I'll go ahead and tighten at the end. From here, what I'm going to go ahead and do is place on these two spacers right here. From a profile view, this is what the assembly is looking like as of now. Once I reached this stage, what I went ahead and did was fasten the screws right here, so that way I can continue up top and nothing would move along the way. I was personally able to assemble the bike within a matter of maybe 3 hours. I'm going to just say 3 hours to kind of play it safe. It was within a 1 to 3 hour time span. It did not take long for me to assemble it. I did have a little bit of help from my lady. Other than that, everything went pretty swift. It was very straightforward to assemble, real patient with the process, and everything kind of just started locking into place. Once everything is fastened, from here, what I'm going to do is put the handlebars on like so. So when I put the handlebars on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fasten it and basically put it in place. I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to go ahead and lock it into where I want it. At this stage, I think it's more efficient and effective to align and tighten the handlebars right now before we continue to the next step. So that's what I'm going to do. Once I got the handlebars aligned and fastened, I'm going to apply these next two spacers as you see me doing, like so. And then I'm going to apply the top part of the handlebar. That's going to kind of lock everything in place. I'm going to screw it in by hand at first, and then I will fasten with the tool later on. You'll notice that the top part that holds the handlebars and everything together also has a spacer. So that top part has 3 spacers. Now I'm just going to go ahead and fasten everything in. As of right now, this is what assembly is looking like on my end. Should you have any questions this far, please drop them down below in the comment section, and I'm going to do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. So once everything is assembled up top and everything is nice and lined up, what we're going to do is put on the front disc brake. For those who are curious, this is what the front disc brake looks like up close. So how I am going to go about installing this disc brake is I'm going to get the disc and I'm going to let it sit flushly between the pads right here. And by doing so, I'm going to get the corner of the pad on first, like so. I'm just going to slide it onto the disc. I'm going to align the holes up correctly, and I'm just going to kind of screw it in. Placing the brake itself on the bike is a pretty straightforward process. However, if you're experiencing some sort of rubbing on the brake pads and the disc brake, then you're going to want to go ahead and fine tune that alignment. There is a little bit of wiggle room upon screwing in, so that way you can really dial in on where you want your disc pads to be sitting upon riding. So I'm going to start with getting the disc brake onto the disc itself, and then I'm going to begin by screwing everything in. As you see, I'm doing it by hand. I'm not locking anything into place, as I'm going to go ahead and work on the alignment as well. And once I get everything aligned, I will go ahead and finalize and tighten everything. I think the best play of approach for me was to put the brake on the disc and get everything fastened. And if I experience any adverse rubbing or sounds that I didn't like, kind of adjust accordingly. You can visibly see me adjusting the brakes right here back and forth, and you can actually see the wiggle room right there. So you can really fine tune and dial into where the brakes sit best for you and where you like them. Allow me to give you a mild demonstration here on the brake stopping power. This is the front wheel right here. I did spin it with my hand. That was more of a slower stop, and this is more of a hard lock stop. And for me, in my experience on riding this bike, the brakes are fairly decent. They're pretty responsive. I mean, they may not be the best. However, they are fairly decent. Next part of the assembly is going to vary, and this may be optional depending on what seat you have. But for me, I ended up getting both seats, the standard bicycle seat and the dirt bike seat for my Stealth Bomber Ebike. And I'm going to show you how to assemble the seat right here for the bicycle seat version. The design on its own for this bicycle seat is pretty simplistic, so I'm just going to loosen this top part up here, and it's kind of like a hinge or a latch that's going to kind of tighten on and mount to these bars on the actual bicycle seat. So as you see, I'm getting this bar right here, and I'm loosening the top enough so that way I can slip the latch there into the bar. So I ended up just removing the top latch there, and I'm going to kind of manually install it like so. So I'm going to place this top part where I feel I should have it sitting. And from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the top part of the latch, and I'm going to place it over and kind of screw it into place so that way it clamps onto the bicycle seat frame. I want to point out that some parts of assembly, and maybe more over others, it may get really frustrating and or maybe even discouraging for the bike, and you may not even like the bike at some point during assembly. However, I want to encourage you to be patient with the assembly process. Kind of have a plan before you dive into it. Don't just start diving into things, because at that point we can risk getting frustrated and or damaging the bike altogether. I highly also encourage you to just be patient, research, and have a plan upon assembling. Again, if you have any questions at all, please drop them in my comment section below. I will do my absolute best to guide you in the best possible direction. Once I got the latch on, I tightened the screw by hand a little bit, and from that point forward, I went ahead and I used a tool to fasten it in place the rest of the way. We will be taking a look at installation of both seats, the dirt bike and the bicycle seat, on the Stealth Bomber Ebike. And the bicycle seat installation is actually very straightforward. This is the seat that came with it installed already. As you see, all I had to do was simply slide the bar down onto the frame there, and the frame of the body is what mounts the bicycle seat to the body itself. From here, all I have to do is close the clamp, make sure it's tight, nice and fastened, and we're good to go. Allow me to show you the seat area without it being attached to the bike. And this is what that component looks like. Here is the profile view, and this is the front view. This is the part that attaches to the body. That's where we screw it in from. I'm going to show you the screws and all of that up close here as well shortly. This is the bottom of it for those who are curious. I would like to help you all understand how the seats are installed to the bike frame. Right now we are on the inside of the bike frame and we are looking at the endings of the screws. On the other side are the heads of the screws, and we use this tool or this sizing tool rather, to get them on and off. Now for me, the process of installing switching out seats is actually pretty straightforward. It's not complicated and or hard at all, especially if the bike frame itself is already empty. So of course you may have to remove your controller and battery. However, in terms of actually getting on and off the seat, it's pretty straightforward. I simply hold one tool on the outside of the screw, one tool on the inside. I loosen all the way until I can loosen by hand. I do that to all four, change out the seat, and then repeat the process in reverse to tighten. Before we get into the controller and the battery and how I'm going to go about securing everything in, what I do want to get into is installing the back light, which is essentially the blinkers and the brakes. I'm glad that I reached out to the manufacturer about the color scheme setup here, because I was going to plug them in how I figured was correct and I was off. So right here is the correct combination for this specific setup. Now keep in mind, if you're getting it from a different manufacturer, you may want to reach out to them and see how they go about connecting it. But for me, this was the correct color scheme right here. So before we plug anything in, I highly encourage you to do the research and or reach out to the manufacturer to get the correct information that you need to do it correctly. Starting from left to right, top to bottom, the turquoise is going to brown, black to black. The red is going to the green and yellow. The yellow is going to the orange, and the orange is going to the light blue. So here is the rear light right here. And this acts as a blinker and a brake light. So when I hit the brakes on the bike, as you can see, it activates. And then when I turn the blinker on, that's facing the right direction, it flashes. And to mount it, as you see, it's very simple. It's using these screws right here, going up to the frame on this area right here. So the light is attached to the seat via these screws right here. Then the wire runs through the seat down into the body of the bike. From here, I'm going to begin to add some foam paddings that were included within the shipment. And these are to cushion the battery from the frame to kind of add a little bit of support there. For me, I would rather have my battery sitting on foam paddings like these rather than on the metal frame itself. Depending on your battery size and the bike frame and everything, that would determine where you're going to be placing your foam inserts and your cushioning, or how you would like to go about it. You don't really have to use foam inserts. You can use foam inserts, you can use Scotch shop wipes, you can use microfiber cloths. Really, whatever material that you choose to use, you can utilize that to brace your battery and kind of lock in everything how you see fit on your end. From here, I'm going to begin to place the battery in. I'm not going to put any foam inserts on the long part of the body there, as I want to put the battery on the metal downside there, so that way it can kind of dissipate heat a little bit better. And as you see, I put the first part of the battery in, and my technique is to reach over the side of the body and kind of grab it with both hands, but from around the body, if that makes sense. So once I have the battery in place, and once it's mounted and I'm not going to drop it, I reach on over and then I grab the battery right there. Then I carry it into place, slowly securing it wherever I need to secure it. I personally found that this was probably the easiest approach for me in terms of getting the battery in and out as I need. It made that process and that aspect of installation kind of more easier for me. So I would recommend trying to go about it that way, see if that works for you. When it comes to installing the controller, I'm not sure if it's going to vary from bike to bike. However, for me, you can see these metal railings up here, and this is the inner part of the body. We're going to go ahead and run zip ties through here, and we're going to mount the controller to these rails right here using zip ties. For me personally, the zip tie method was more than enough to securely mount the controller onto the body of the frame and hold it in place. Before I secure the controller with the zip ties, I'm going to connect everything else in here that needs to be connected, which are these two wires right here up top. It's going to be from the top part of the battery. You're going to see we have this wire that I'm going to plug in, and there is going to be one more that I also show you as well. To plug it in is very straightforward and very simple, just like that. Same thing with this connector right here, very straightforward. We're going to go ahead and just plug them in, kind of like a puzzle. 1, 2, 3, and that is essentially it for the battery to the bike frame and the inner components here. The manufacturer did everything else for me. Now for the controller, you're just going to want to place it in this area as I showed you there. For me, I recommend placing in the battery first and then the controller, not the other way around. We should have results that are similar to this. As you can see, all the wires are kind of just there. I kind of just tucked them in there and tried to put them as best as I could. I really didn't do too much after the controller and battery were installed. I just put the wires in there and tucked them in there. Make sure everything was kind of sitting naturally and nothing was twisting and turning in any adverse ways or anything like that. And these are the results. The controller is securely locked in there. It's not going anywhere. The battery is a bit more wobble free now, so I can hit a bit more bumps on the road, so to speak. That right there is where I put that piece. I don't know what that component is called, but I placed it right there with some 3M tape so it doesn't move. And these are my results. This is how I went about assembling my Stealth Bomber 8,000 watt e-bike. If you have any questions about anything that you saw or heard throughout this video, again, I'm going to highly encourage you, drop a comment below. I will do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. I also have social medias all under the same name as this YouTube channel. I have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok all under the same name. I would truly appreciate the support on there as well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for me and ring that bell, as I will bring more videos like this for you all. Thank you for tuning in yet again. You have a great day.